Welcome back to Crystal Clear. I'm Shark Fox, and I want to talk about what's without a doubt the most controversial plot point and decision within Steven Universe, alongside the giant misconception that surrounds it: the Great Diamond Authority ceasing their empire. Change Your Mind being the original series finale of Steven Universe, as it was the end of the planned story arc they wrote back in 2011, took a very controversial route with its solution, and one that I feel was intentionally controversial, because Steven Universe is a very complex story. A lot of the decisions that happen in the story, everyone is not going to be on the same page and agree with 100%. Yet, what makes Change Your Mind different from the rest is that for the first time in 160 episodes, we leave off on a definitive happy ending. Thus, it glorifies Steven's actions, and that's an important distinction to make. By glorifying Steven's actions and his ability to appease the diamonds, a lot of people feel that the show itself is also glorifying the diamonds, which many write off as ruthless, tyrannical, genocidal beings, and the last part isn't true. We actually have written proof that the diamonds weren't genocidal, but I'll touch on that in a moment. The focus of this video is that a lot of people are saying, yeah, the diamonds are redeemed, they're quirky good guys now, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The diamonds are not redeemed characters. When you look at a previously established redemption arc in the series, for example the biggest one being Peridot, and compared to how the diamonds are behaving in a post-Change Your Mind world, you cannot say they have good intentions and the best interests at heart. These are not redeemed characters, they are just no longer in the position of power they once were in. These characters have not truly learned a lesson. They are not truly remorseful for the actions they have committed. At least, not yet. With the release of Steven Universe the movie, the series has a lot of eyes on it at the moment, and thus a lot of discourse around the franchise is resurfacing. Of course, the main one being, oh, this show is telling you to forgive literally Hitler. But what pushed me to make this video wasn't those critiques resurfacing, it was the counter arguments to those critiques that I feel need to be amplified on a larger platform. So while I will be giving my own thoughts, I'll also be building off of counter arguments that I feel need to be broadcasted and seen to a much larger pool of people. The first counter argument being a string of tweets in a thread that was liked by Ian Jones-Cordy himself. Why is Ian JQ relevant to any of this? Well, he was executive producer on Steven Universe for the first 3 seasons, he was heavily involved with the story, and he knew how Change Your Mind would turn out from the very beginning. And we'll also address a tweet of his when it comes to the genocidal aspect of everything. But anyways, this first thread comes from Hugh Trooper, who states, I hate when people say the diamonds were redeemed. They never showed real tangible change. Steven used his history with them to more or less manipulate them into being on his side. They only listen to Steven because he's one of them, and he knows that. He also knows it's bullshit when they pretend their morals have changed, but he knows they'll back off and let them enact the reforms they never would, so he just puts up with the fakeness. Bismuth's line from Lecture from the Homeworld basically sums up what his intention was. You're going into the lion's den, but you're a lion too. You gotta roar at them in their own language. And to build off this thread, we never see any characters ever forgive the diamonds or even warm up to them. And if you're making the assumption, oh well, the gems have to be fond of them now, they healed all the corrupted gems.
No!
I really don't see it being in character for any of the gems to forgive the diamonds just because, oh, they brought all their friends back. Why? Because the diamonds are the reason they got corrupted in the first place. They weren't doing them a favor, they were correcting their own mistake. A literal mistake that Blue Diamond remarks in Lecture for the Homeworld shouldn't have even happened. Steven even spells this out in Lecture for the Homeworld. He flat out yells at the diamond stating, you guys did this, you have to fix them, all of them. And guess what? In the diamonds doing that, they weren't redeeming themselves. You know what correcting your mistake is called? Consequences. The diamonds messed up. Bad. There's no doubt about that. Their attack on Earth didn't just affect the lives of Crystal Gems, it also affected the lives of Homeworld Gems, those who were fighting for the diamonds. This wasn't an act of redemption, because they didn't go out of the way to do something they didn't have to. This was simply owning up to responsibility. As for Steven manipulating the diamonds, well, I know the word manipulate and any form of it, it sounds malicious. It sounds as if it's naturally of ill intent. And while I don't think any of that suits Steven's actions, it is true. true. Look at the episode Familiar. Just listen to the song Familiar. Once Steven makes a connection that Pink Diamond was in the same spot he was in when he was a kid, that him and his mom are more alike than he ever imagined, he quite literally sings on how he's going to use that to his advantage to bring the diamonds together and get them to cease their terror across space. His exact words is showing them the error of their ways, but never once in this song or even throughout any of this art does he say, oh, we're gonna grill and picnic and have hot dogs and live happily ever after. Steven and the Pebbles literally made Pink Diamond's outfit because he knew that would butter them up, stating to Pearl that he wanted to be well dressed for the occasion. And before we move on, that's another thing a lot of people like to ignore when critiquing the diamonds. A lot of people who aren't fond of Steven Universe, and this does not go for everybody who has a problem with it or a problem with where the diamonds currently are, but people who particularly don't enjoy the show, who get enjoyment off of ripping on it, and try to spread that influence to anybody who either doesn't know anything about the show or who are fans of the show but not super invested, try to minimize it to just, Steven, this random kid, talked to these powerful matriarchs once and suddenly they're eating out of the palm of his hands. Which yeah, when you really bare bones it, that is how it looks. However, that's completely ignoring the part where Steven is the son, the descendant, the survivor of Pink Diamond. You know, the person the diamonds have been warning for thousands of years? I'm going to get dark for a second, but please just let me ask you a question. Think of the closest person in your family, someone who you truly love and adore and you don't want to lose. Maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's an uncle or aunt or even cousin. Now imagine they just died. Again, I know that's dark, but you would surely be impacted by that death. Now let's say some time has passed. Could be months, could be years. You still obviously have missed this relative. Let's say you're not over it yet, as the diamonds weren't over Pink Diamond. Imagine if that relative who passed had a child you didn't even know existed, and they just showed up at your doorstep. Are you not gonna try to hear them out and listen to what they have to say? Are you gonna turn them away? Because if I was in that situation, I would definitely at least have a conversation. Now I will admit, in the case this gets taken out of context, I know that's not a one-to-one parallel, but it is close to what the diamonds dealt with. Sure, they assume Steven was Pink Diamond, which I feel makes an even stronger case, but the fact remains, they lost someone very important to them, and then they discovered the person they were trying to kill, all this time, was heavily and deeply connected to that person they lost. Steven was in a position nobody else in the series was in. So he didn't just approach tyrants. He did, even if you hate to look at it this way, approached a family. A family that was still hurting, a family that was still processing, and a family that doubled down and tightened up more than ever to not only push out any sort of emotion, but to ensure nothing like this would ever happen again. Does this justify anything the diamonds did? Of course not. But just to make it seem as if Steven approached the devil himself and was able to change everything because he made the devil blush is an extreme and gross exaggeration for the sole purpose of making the show sound worse than it is. Routing that out, just look at how the diamonds act in the movie. It's been 2 years. Steven has dismantled the Empire. And yes, he has brought his definition of peace to the galaxy. Yet, how do the diamonds interpret this? I mean, they quite literally have a song where they try to adore Steven, convincing him to stay on Homeworld, so if they were redeemed, they would definitely sing about how Steven has shown them the joys of life, right? How he's opened their eyes and really showed them a perspective they never considered before, right? Well, how come instead they sing about, well, Steven, you remind us of Pink Diamond, so you should stay, and also we did everything you asked us to. They're not grateful. They're not remorseful. Their perspective hasn't changed. They're quite literally, in song, complaining to Steven that they did everything they asked him to do, so they should get what they want. That's not redemption. Of course, when they're no longer a threat, it's gonna be treated in a somewhat comedic manner. Are you guys forgetting what network this is on? That this show was primarily a comedy before anything else? And I can see if the comedy was undercutting their moments or development, but the fact they don't have any real significant change negates any sort of critique that these people are redeemed. Hell, at the end of the film, when they arrive on Earth, White Diamond tries to play it off as if judging others is wrong, and it's played off as a joke with the purpose of showing that Steven is not buying into their BS. Yes, the Diamonds clearly aren't being sincere about their change. That doesn't mean they're gonna go colonizing planets or anything, but just because they're allowing crash gem fusion and not using a rejuvenator or shattering gems doesn't mean that they're good people or that they're redeemed or that the show is saying you should forgive murderers. Because although they're not genocidal, they are cold-blooded murderers. But still, we'll touch on that soon, because I feel as if it's an important place to end the video on. Y'all know Robo Buddies, a very insightful retired content creator who without a doubt made the most constructive and actually well-researched Steven Universe rant video. Yeah, not only does she not like that video anymore, as she learned more about the animation process and how she got some things wrong, which no one should penalize her for, it was 2 years ago. She's learned a lot more about animation and Cartoon Network since then, but more on that will be touched on in an upcoming video by my friend What the Cheek. Check. I can't pronounce well. Anyways, Robo Buddies also shared a very interesting take on how the Diamonds weren't redeemed. That again, I feel needs to be seen on a larger platform, especially coming from someone who many try to look to and use their video as a platform of, oh, this show is definitely bad and not worth anyone's time. Robo said over on her Twitter, honestly, I don't think the Diamonds from Steven Universe were redeemed. And more so, I don't think that was ever the point. I think Change Your Mind was more or less about forgiving everyone and more about how there are situations where it's better to make a compromise than to fight. Almost as if that was the entire point of the series. But Robo continues. And despite how babyish people make Steven Universe out to be, I think this message is actually pretty mature. Like, hey, instead of constantly fighting and asserting some sort of bravado, let's talk and work this out like adults. Moreover, the Diamonds don't get off scot-free. They are made to help repair all of the damage they caused. They do face consequences for their actions. If anything, shattering them would have been the easy way out. Justice would be served, but nothing would be fixed. And the type of damage to hierarchy caused by shattering them would probably make more problems. On top of this, nothing about Gem Society would change if the Diamonds were shattered. More likely, they would just be replaced by a new regime, one bent on avenging the old, and thus the cycle of violence continues. By actually having a conversation with them, Steven not only ended the Gem War, but managed to expose the flaws in the entirety of Gem Society, and begin to work towards fixing them. He wouldn't have been able to do this if he shattered the Diamonds. I guess this is a pretty lukewarm take at this point. I've just gotten kind of tired of the whole Steven Universe says to forgive murderers thing that everyone's been on, almost as annoying as fusion equals sex, which is also incredibly not correct. Now, before the movie, I definitely understand why a lot of people would feel as if the Diamonds were redeemed. Again, if Change Your Mind was the ending, we would have been left on this ambiguous take of, oh, Steven and the Diamonds are cool, why Diamond smiled at Steven, yada yada yada. Because if you asked me back in January, I would have argued, yeah, they were redeemed. I'd probably have a video up about it. So I'll be pretty amused if someone just doesn't watch this video, looks at the title, and tries to dig up that video, posing it side by side as a statement as if opinions can't change. But now that we're in a post-movie world, and we've seen the Diamonds interact, to say they're redeemed is just not true. But here's what I think is really going on. I think a lot of people are substituting redeemed for likability. Because although the Diamonds aren't redeemed, although they haven't shown any significant change, the fact the show can present them in a jokey manner kind of opens up the floodgates for more people to like the Diamonds as characters. That people can enjoy their presence on screen. But they can't make genocidal tyrants likable. No one's ever liked villains ever in media. It's not like, there are people out there whose favorite characters are Joker, Slade, Lord Dominator, Bill Cipher, the list goes on, but these are genocidal tyrants, man. You can't be fond of them. Okay, yeah, no one talks like that, but still. I think it's just presenting the Diamonds in a more casual manner that is rubbing people the wrong way, because they were antagonists, because they had an era of tension, because these were the people that were standing between Steven and peace. But genocidal... let's talk about that. So last year, after A Single Pill Rose aired, Ian Jones-Cordy tweeted something that was swiftly deleted. The original plot outline of the show that involved the Rose Quartz was Pink Diamond twist. Now I'm hoping at least a screen cap of this image was still up, but Ian Jones-Cordy remarked it was from 2011, and in the doc itself, you can see that it was last edited in, I believe, summer of about 2013. So yeah, quite some time before we would see all of this unfold on television. However, recently, as OKKO was wrapping up production, Ian Jones-Cordy tweeted something interesting that led to an even more interesting dialogue. Cleaning out my office. I have all these artifacts from early Steven Universe days. Pre-season 1, so these writing notes must be from 2013. I think we used almost all of this material. And from what I can read, the most important part we want to focus on is the past. The Gem's home planet was ruled by 4 diamonds: white, blue, yellow, and pink. Thousands of years ago, these diamonds launched an invasion on Earth. The Gems that invaded were surprised to find intelligent life. As they colonized Earth, they became fond of humans and started to question the invasion. Now we're gonna cut it off right there, but if you scroll down the replies a little bit, Ian was questioned by a fan. So I haven't noticed the part where it says they were surprised to find intelligent life. Does that mean all the planets that the Diamonds had conquered beforehand had only plants and animals and all that? To which Ian Jones-Cordy responded, the universe is huge and intelligent life is very rare. Now look, you can read between all the lines you want and say, oh, well he did definitely say, no, okay, it's apparent from this outline and the clarification tweet that the Diamonds only really encountered maybe just animals and plant life on other planets that they colonized. But Earth was the very first time they encountered someone like human beings, someone like us. So it's implied other alien species that could be humanoid like us, sentient and intelligent like us, and thus where the true issue of genocidal tyrants came into play never really existed. All this time, people have been working themselves up about an issue that didn't exist. The Diamonds weren't genocidal. Sure, they killed their own, but it's not like they were on a warpath to destroy each and every gem. They had a system. Everyone fell into line into place. If you didn't fit in that place, you were shattered. Was it awful? Of course. Does that make them genocidal tyrants? No. In fact, we see them get the closest to genocide in That Will Be All, where Yellow Diamond demands for the remaining rose quartzes to be shattered, but Blue Diamond argues they're all we have left of pink. The fact they bubbled all these rose quartzes in the first place instead of shattering them, even if there is an emotional attachment to pink, shows they aren't inherently genocidal. Sure, Yellow Diamond almost crossed that line, and yeah, that line almost being crossed because of grief doesn't excuse it, but she still didn't do it. And now you may think, why didn't they elaborate on that in the show? And I just gotta say, when did they exactly elaborate that they were killing multiple species? Namely sentient species who could have put up a fight? The closest thing we get beyond That Will Be All is Jungle Moon, where during Savani's little flashback dream sequence, Yellow Priyanka explains, it's an invasion, wipe them all out. But like, we see some species on Jungle Moon and none of them look humanoid. They all resembled animals. So the closest thing they're genocidal to is plant life and animals. Does that justify it? No. Does that make it right? No. Could that potentially be an allegory for how we as human beings have killed a lot of animals and a lot of animals have gone extinct and plant life is also in danger and also the world is like on fire? Yes. Now would you say we as human beings, or at least those who came before us, were genocidal for any animals that went extinct? For all the forests that were torn down? Well, I think that would be subjective. Now more than ever we have been combating the actions of the humans that are on the planet before us. People are vegan, people want to protect animal life and prevent animals from going extinct. So to them, yeah, the Diamonds would still hit close to home. They would still be seen as irredeemable, which is fine, because they're not redeemed, and honestly, they would have to do a lot of development to get up to the point where they could be. But the fact of the matter is, Steven doesn't even want to be near them. He tells them he has his own life to get back to, clearly showing that they're not really a part of his life. At least not in the same way that Garnet, Amethyst Pearl, Peridot, Lapis, and Bismuth are. Steven did his work and he bounced. Will he maintain contact with the Diamonds? I'm sure. He's still the new Pink Diamond even if he doesn't live on Homeworld. But I do want to propose a question. For those who do slaughter animals, who have or do continue through the extinction of animals, of plant life, would you say they were irredeemable? Ultimately, I don't think the Diamonds should be redeemed either way. I just think the position they are in right now isn't one where you can say they have been redeemed. Redemption is a word with a lot of weight to it that is kind of just thrown around now, especially with media like Steven Universe and other cartoons. But a huge message of Steven Universe that's hammered in over and over again is that all life is worth protecting, not just human beings. The environment, the plants, the animals. That's what the opening scene of It Could Have Been Great hammers in. That's what Lapis exploring the Earth with Steven trying to fit in hammered in. It's what Peridot and the Rain hammered in. It's what Steven's Diamond Base being a greenhouse hammers in. That was the wrongdoing of the Diamonds colonizing all these planets. Harming animals, even if they were space animals, and literally killing planets, not just hypothetical people on them who we now know didn't really exist in the first place. So there you have it. I'm sure a lot of people will still walk away from this thinking, no, the Diamonds were redeemed. No, they're genocidal tyrants. No, you're wrong. That outline doesn't debunk anything. And for you people, have a great life. But for everybody else, I want to know what you think. Are you a bit more open-minded? I'm not saying you have to be fond of the Diamonds. I'm not saying love and adore them. I just wanted to comment on something that's been on my mind for quite quite a long time. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or tweet your thoughts at Roundtable Vids. And for more of my own thoughts, you can find me at Fox. We're also on Instagram. Help Roundtable grow by either becoming a member of this channel or supporting us over at Patreon. Link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. Fox signing out.